It's not like we needed more evidence of the sabotage, but we got it. Also, Dan Orlovsky goes from having a good take on Kenny Pickett to having a terrible one. Big Deke news. Yesterday, Big Ben granted us some access to behind the scenes of what it's like to working with Matt Canada as your offensive coordinator. He specifically talks about his final season in 2021. Listen to what he has to say.
As long as I've been there, I worked really closely with the offensive coordinator. And that was intentional. Almost to the point where I felt like at one point, BA early on didn't want a quarterback coach. He didn't want that. Quarterback coaches, I've said this before, are the go-between. When you're butting head with a coordinator, like if I want to complain about the coordinator because something happened, I'm gonna go tell the quarterback coach, and he's gonna go tell. And when the coordinator's got something wrong with me, he goes tell the quarterback coach. It's just like that. It's that he's a mediator, you know. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
And so I've always worked really closely with the coordinator, even when I had a quarterback coach, whether Randy was a quarterback coach and BA or Kenny Anderson and BA, however it was. Always worked closely with the coordinator. I didn't feel that with Matt, even when he was my coordinator. And Sully was, it almost felt like Matt wanted to let the quarterback coach me or coach the quarterbacks. And for right or wrong, it's just the way he does it. Now, maybe it was different this year. Maybe he just didn't want to do it because it was with me or what. I don't really know that. But that was the first time that I felt that I wasn't working directly with the coordinator as much. You know what I'm saying? Which seems weird.
Again, this is more clear evidence of the sabotage. Like, I don't even know why Canada was hired to be Seven's offensive coordinator in his final season to begin with. First, he wasn't even qualified for the job. Canada was not really a good college offensive coordinator. He had one decent season at Pitt. Outside of that, he was mediocre. But then when he actually gets his opportunity to be an NFL OC, he doesn't have a direct communication with the Hall of Fame quarterback that you have. Like, that's insane. What other team around the league operates like that? Your quarterback is an extension of the play calling of the offensive coordinator on the field. You'd like to think that the coordinator and quarterback have some type of relationship, and it's not a Seven thing. You heard him. He said every other coordinator he's had, it's been, direct line. Canada, for some reason, just wasn't that way. But this goes hand in hand with Jerry Dulac's report that suggested Canada just wanted to run a dictatorship. It was his way or the highway, because he also didn't get any input from the offensive assistant, or didn't want any input from the offensive assistants. So I guess that's a way to go about being an NFL OC, your first try at it, where you don't get advice or you don't work in cohesion with your Hall of Fame quarterback and you don't get input from your offensive assistants. And I guess that's how we got to where we are right now, and how the Canada tenure was what it was. Not good. But now let's segue to talking about the current Steelers quarterback, Kenny Pickett. And Dan Orlovsky had a take on him just a week ago after the firing of Matt Canada that suggested a lot of what we were just saying in our first segment, that Canada wasn't really fit for the job. He didn't really do the Steelers' offensive players or the quarterback any favors. This is what he said on Pat McAfee's show.
But it was the necessary move.
Well.
There's too many instances where this offense, and you guys have had me layer out the predictability, the lack of explosion, the never creating an advantage. Like, there's so many flaws within this scheme. Okay, so at some point you have to sit there and say, are we helping the players or not? I think that's what it really comes down to. Were they ever creating an advantage for the players? More often than not, that answer was no. So you have to move on.
So good take for Orlovsky there. +1 for Dan on his Steelers/Pickett takes. And then fast forward to yesterday, he decided to go off the rails and tweeted about Justin Fields and what teams would be upgrading at quarterback if they brought him onto their roster. He says it'd be the Jets, the Pats, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Giants, Vikings, Falcons, Saints, and Bucks. This is brutal. It's tough to see a man fall so hard on his football takes just within the short span of a week, going from that good to that bad. Justin Fields over Kenny Pickett. come on, bro. What are we talking about here? Fantasy football stats, or are we talking about actually quarterbacking your team and trying to get wins? If you want the fantasy stats, whatever. You could take Fields, but if you want a quarterback to win you games, I'll take Kenny Pickett, because Justin Fields, in his 3 seasons with the Bears, 3 whole seasons, that's a lot of games that you're starting, right? He has just as many wins as Kenny Pickett does for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season in 2023. And 2023 isn't even over yet. I expect the Steelers to at least get double-digit wins. At least. That is the floor. So what are we talking here? What are we talking? I get it. Justin Fields has some highlights. He could put up good fantasy stats for you, but he ain't winning games. Kenny Pickett wins games, like it or not. And that's with Matt Canada as his offensive coordinator. I can only wait to see what happens for these remaining 6 games, because the Kenny Pickett we saw in the Bengals game, that's the Kenny Pickett I expected for this season. That's the Kenny Pickett I know. Whatever was going on in the first half, I mean, you got inept offensive coordinator play. Yeah, Kenny could have played better. Obviously, he had some misses, but the offensive line wasn't good. You had receiver drops. We just had a mess of a thing going on. But now, I think the tide's going to turn, and yeah, I'm calling my shot here. We're going to see more of Kenny Pickett from that Cincy game going forward. And if that's the guy you're going to be getting, I don't think Justin Fields holds a candle to that. So again, if you guys want to be in an uproar, but Kenny only has this many touchdowns, he's only thrown for this many yards, this is his touchdown interception ratio. I know the dude plays winning football. You guys are going to hold it against him if we, march it down the field. He makes some nice passes, but then we hand it off at the 5 and Najee Harris gets in. You'll hold that against Kenny Pickett, but you won't hold, you'll just focus on all the positive with Justin Fields, the fantasy stats, the touchdowns and all that. But you'll forget that the dude has 35 fumbles in his career thus far and 27 interceptions. Whereas Kenny has only 13 interceptions and 5 fumbles. And I get the win isn't like a sole quarterback stat, but the quarterback's most important job is playing winning football and getting wins for his team as a leader. So, whatever. Orlovsky, you could take Justin Fields, or any of you guys in the comments, you could take Justin Fields. I will take Kenny Pickett, and I think my take will age like fine wine, and I think those that would take Justin Fields over Kenny Pickett, that take is going to age like milk. But that is it for this edition of Big Deke News on a Thursday. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Big Ben's comments on Matt Canada, and also who you taking, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields. Stay chilling, and peace.